Hey, welcome back to part 2 of the Unsung Emergency Mixtape.
Emergency mixtape, yeah.
Split, whatever. David is still on hospital duty, hopefully further down the motorway by this point.
Yeah.
Maybe in a
motor vehicle now. Hopefully not an ambulance.
Yeah. We are going to take a second subject from me. This is kind of based on the fact that I keep getting asked sort of this and peripheral questions about touring bands, partly based on experience and partly just based on a lot of shit that I talk about when I've had a couple. So I'm just going to try and distill a lot of people's inquiries into one question, which is, what would be the worst band you could think of to tour with? Now, even as I was answering my own question, I realised there's a few different ways you can go with that, and there's a few different criteria that make them good, bad, and otherwise. You've got like mental, like head cases.
Yeah, just fucking idiots.
You've got assholes. You've got tiresome motherfuckers, and you've got boring motherfuckers. So, yeah, Mark, any jump out to you initially?
Morrissey.
Look what I've got written in big letters at the top of my page with a wee unhappy face next to it.
Yeah, actually it does. I can confirm this.
Morrissey, sad face.
I think it would be both boring and intolerable at the same time.
What a fucking dick that guy is. Yes, I agree. I can't even imagine what it's like to tour with Morrissey. I don't imagine he speaks to you.
Yeah.
But that's probably the best part of it.
Yeah. maybe it'd be quite good to tour with it, and I think about it.
Based on the horror stories of him telling venues that the band playing in the adjacent part of a venue had to stop so that his show didn't have any noise coming through the walls when he was trying to make an entire theatre go completely silent. Just the repugnant ego on the guy. That's before you even consider his plentiful, nefarious political views and stances on things.
Oh boy.
He just sounds like such hard work.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like it sounds like your racist granddad, doesn't he? Really?
Does he have any kids?
No, I think he's like also quite asexual too, isn't he?
Well, there you go. Someone's been spared. A racist granddad. Well, so I kind of put a few down, right? And I've got previous in this, all right? So I did a little bit of driving as like a road manager, tour manager, and just driver for a few groups, and had interesting experiences that would fall into a few of the different categories. One of the memories I've got that stays with me the most was when my band decided to do a joint tour. And joint tours are a weird thing. Joint headline tours. You're often in the same vehicle, splitting the costs. It makes sense in some ways, but it doesn't make sense in other ways because you get half the guarantees. And very rarely are the guarantees doubled, you know. It's like if you go away and play a show, let's say hypothetically, you get $250 for a show. If you go away with two bands, you very rarely get $500. It's like, okay, maybe we'll push it to 3, so you're now getting 150. So things are a little bit tighter anyway on those tours usually. You're cramming into spaces with more people. You got more cats to try and herd into the van, more people to try and get out of their bed in the morning, more people disappearing just as you're about to leave for a piss, and more people disappearing to get a coffee, more people standing outside smoking when you're trying to unload the stuff. Just, there's a lot of ways that can really get on your nerves. Now, I have some very good friends that I've played with, and bless these folk, they're really nice people. I think, in fact, maybe one of these guys maybe even listens to this podcast. So we're not going to call his band their actual name. We're going to simply refer to them instead as Gothenburg 6. And that'll have some significance for anyone that knows what I'm talking about. But this band, they're English. Swell guys. We travelled around France and Spain with those guys. And one of the advantages of travelling around France and Spain when you're on a small tour, as we had in the rider, was like, look, if we're in your town, please can we try something that's from your town? Don't spend a lot of money, but we love to taste the local culture. We love to like see what you're all about. So we would turn up at venues and people would put a lot of effort into like the dinners or sourcing the dinners that they were going to take us somewhere to let us try like a, even something like a creperie or something like that. Like, this place makes the best in town. You really, and that was amazing. That was like one of the nicest things about those tours. You really, you had a guy on the inside or a girl on the inside that would show you something from their town or let you taste something from their region that was like particularly good. And obviously when you're in places like Bordeaux, you know, the fucking wine was unbelievable. So we're getting all these things. We toured with these guys, and oh my God, every night they were like basically wanting like a Wetherspoons. So it was like you turn up and somebody'd put out like a baked camembert with like garlic cloves pushed into it and some like fresh local crusty bread, and then like mushrooms that had been picked and baked into this like weird pastry thing. And you're like, wow, this looks amazing. And they would just have these weird screwed up faces on. Anywhere we can get some egg and chips kind of vibe. And you're like, oh my fucking God, look at this stuff. This is amazing. This is so exciting. Try it. Nothing. You go to a place and they'd give you like their local beers, or they'd have like a spirit, or they'd have something. They'd go to the van and get their cans of Carling, or like if we went to a supermarket, it'd be like Heineken or something generic, something safe, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to ask around at the venues. We're like, is this like a national thing? They were like, no, with the English bands, this always seems to happen, you know. We put out the food, and they just they want to go to the Carrefour and just get the Heineken and a Findus crispy pancakes. It was really fucking odd and incredibly infuriating. We found ourselves really apologising, and the guys didn't mean it. The guys are great guys, but they just had no sense of adventure.
I've got a second-hand story that I can kind of add into that. So my flatmate who listens to this podcast, his name is Craig, and he's in a band called Revulsion, who are very, very good, and they just come back from a tour of Europe. At the time of recording, it's the end of June, and they were away at the end of May, so very recently. And they were playing in France with I wouldn't say a well-known hardcore band, but a hardcore band that are definitely on the rise just now from America. They're all vegan and straight edge.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of band that you can.
Okay, this is jumping ahead to one of my topics. So yeah.
And as a side note on this tour, he was asked by one of the guitar players in this band, "Hey man, do you think you'd ever play drums for us?" He's like, "Yes, mate, I would, but I love beer too much." And he was like, "Fair." But he's a vegetarian, and a couple of guys in the band are vegan, and a couple of guys are not. And these French people went to really great lengths to make vegetarian food for them. But they used butter to cook it, so it's not vegetarian, and like apparently all the vegans were absolutely fucking raging, and Craig's just sitting there at the back going,
we played in the south of France in a town that we call Fréjus, which apparently people are like, how the fuck did you find the venue in Fréjus? Well, that is one of the most harrowing stories of my life, and that is for another time. But one aspect of that is that, again, our drummer was vegan, and like, he was only just leaving raw veganism. Like, we managed to persuade him to start letting us cook lentils for him, you know. And he got some great food in that tour, but we turned up in Fréjus and we did the sound check and stuff, and the whole night was like a total debacle. Like, it would take me about an hour to tell you about it all. But one of them was, we sat down, we're just so hungry, and they emptied a carrier bag of like microwave frozen dinners that all had like a little sticker on them saying €2, and we're like, oh my God, what's this shit? And they gave him this one that said rabbit, and we were like, no, vegan, and they were like, yeah, it's rabbit. They were like, what? And they're like, beef, chicken, rabbit for the vegan. What the fuck are you talking about? And so many of these like little towns we would go, and they just, the whole concept seemed quite alien, and yeah, there you go, hadn't quite penetrated. Talking of which, one of the bands I wrote in my list is Earth Crisis.
Earth Crisis would be like the worst.
Fuck me. Imagine touring with a band like Earth Crisis. Imagine oh, he's doing his thing again. Oh my God. It'd be like when your dad starts talking about homosexuals or something.
Oh, gotta just get a rest. Fuck's sake. Another night. It's a fucking 14th day to tour, and I'm still talking about this shit.
Just tell the DJ to start putting something on again, man. But
turn his mic off between songs, it's fine.
Earth Crisis, man. Imagine listening to that fucking sanctimonious bullshit. Like, guys, can we get through one gig where we don't talk about abortion? Is that okay? Can we just not talk about abortion tonight? Or veganism, and can we not have you looking at the back of everything that the crowd are drinking? And just I couldn't fucking deal with that. And I had very good friends with vegans and toured with vegans, and they're great. They're fucking really accommodating and really appreciative, especially when people go to the effort. But you just know that other people, it's a fucking it's a club with which to
Yeah.
beat their hosts. And it's just, I've seen it, like we've seen it at gigs where people are like, dude, come on, we'll fix this, we'll go and get you something. Like that night, it's like we went and got him something. He didn't like give
Didn't
him
starve.
shit, but
Yeah.
I've been around people that have just caused such a scene, and you're like, come on, man.
Well, one of our own's a vegan, so we know they're on.
I know, I warned him. In fact, talking to him, he has sent us in a voice note, so well, we see what David has to
I
contribute
will
to.
see what he's saying. Hopefully it's something with veganism.
Right, can you just imagine being on tour with, well, first up, the Libertines, or even worse, fucking Baby Shambles. Imagine touring around sweaty student unions of Britain to indie fucking twats in their fucking British Army uniforms and having to share a fucking tour bus with a either skagged out or coked up Pete Doherty and his gang of ne'er-do-wells, and then you actually have to go and fucking listen to the music as well. The shittest, loosest idea of punk ever committed to tape. Rancid, twee, white bollocks. I can. If you see that, I mean, you probably know better now. I saw that photo of Pete Doherty in Margate having eaten like a 45-piece mega breakfast, which included burgers and chips, and he did it in like 20 minutes. I mean, I can just imagine the entire tour smelling of Pete Doherty's heroin and bacon sarnie farts. Oh, anyway, I can't think of anything worse than that, apart from maybe being the drummer behind Dave Lee Roth's assless chaps. That'd be, well, I know he's got a pretty firm ass. Yeah, no, Pete Doherty and any of his bands, that's just the worst type of thing for me. Oh, I feel quite ill just thinking about it.
Get the word ne'er-do-wells is always a sign of a good post, but
Yeah.
to get heroin and bacon sarnie farts in there as well.
Good work, Dave. I know you're still on the motorway there, but
Can you tell that Dave's had a stressful couple of days and he's just venting via the medium of the Libertines?
I imagine that's what being into with not Foo Fighters. I mean, you should definitely talk about that at some point as well. But I think that's maybe what being into in the early days of Nirvana would have been like as well.
No,
Like, 'cause
not at all, man.
Kurt would have just been like fucked the whole time, man. But really, it would have been
No,
really depressing.
I don't. But as far as I can tell, I mean, when they were like doing like the Bleach stuff and when they were doing the really early Nevermind stuff, yeah, they did a bit of drugs, but they were pretty functional, man. It was the money and the sort of leisure that led to the serious habit. But yeah, I mean, Dave has a good point there. That would be a fucking abysmal existence. I mean, you mentioned Foo Fighters by accident there.
Yeah.
You know that Foo Fighters turned up with 16 tour buses when they played at the SCCC.
Yeah, because I've spoken about this before, and it could very well be heresy.
Heresy.
And,
Hearsay.
It
could be both.
To Dave Grohl fans, it's definitely heresy. It could very well be hearsay though as well. But apparently that his family come on tour with him because he's a serial cheater, and his wife.
Oh, is this you double killing the Nexus? It's like
it's
kicking it when it's
yeah,
dead.
he's dead. Stop kicking him. Yeah, apparently his wife and his kid used to. I don't know if it still does, but used to come on tour with him because he was a serial cheater.
Yeah, did he not have previous about the Winona Ryder link was something to do with that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I imagine they've all got their own tour bus because you're the Foo Fighters. Why the fuck not? Who wants it?
It's a fleet though. I mean, that is a carbon footprint.
Yeah, it's a carbon footprint. But I was going to say, I don't want to be promoting other media outlets, but there's actually a really good interview in The Guardian, which was a couple of months ago, which was of Pete Doherty like recently, and it's really interesting and it's really depressing, but it's also quite funny. Like the guy's still he's still a junkie, like legitimately still is, and he has absolutely no qualms about it. Has no plans to change whatsoever. Still talks about that hotel in Margate that he still owns, which is kind of where he makes his primary income just now. And he's just broke all the fucking time, despite the fact, I'm pretty sure he's making a pretty penny still from Libertines royalties. But there you go. It's worth looking out for.
Yeah, I don't know if I can summon sympathy for Pete Doherty after the whole kind of guy falling off the balcony at the party thing.
Yeah.
After an altercation with him and his bouncer, and then
I would have no sympathy for him, especially after reading the interview, but it's a really interesting insight into his kind of thought process as to why he is the way he is.
Yeah. Insight into Pete Doherty. Not high on my shopping list. Other kind of categories of crapness, the kind of boring, tedious touring of like somebody like Coldplay and
Nickelback.
See, I don't think they'd be as boring as Coldplay. I get the feeling that Coldplay, especially because of the Gwyneth Paltrow connection, you'd have like that kind of hangover of detox obsessions and yoga and smoothies and whole grains and some very I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain. It's some very sort of Stockbridgey, West End of Glasgow, grassroots, Waitrosey. Just something very pastel coloured.
U2 would be super dull as well.
I wonder what their tours were like though when they were at their height of their fame. I bet they weren't nearly as good as they'd like people to think they were.
Yeah.
In terms of their behaviour.
But when you mentioned both of those bands, the thing that kept coming to my mind is probably being on tour with the Rolling Stones, because it's probably really fucking boring now when they used to be wild. But they are our granddads, so
yeah. I mean, I don't imagine it's touring in a conventional sense. It's probably like they shipped in and shipped out again. You know, they're probably used to getting a helicopter back to their house. It's just probably such a bizarre experience.
I think between shows, you just go into cryogenic stasis and then just get shipped to the next venue and get defrosted and put on stage.
What is that? Bay City Rollers. I know the guy that was the tour manager for them, and they fucking hate each other.
Yeah, I think you told the story way back at the very start of the podcast.
Yeah.
So people who have never listened to the first few episodes,
Early episodes,
this is a good story.
Like so apparently they were about to go on stage, and they used to just fuck each other over. So one guy was like, "Oh, when are we on stage, guys?" And they were like, "Oh, it's all right. We're not on for another 5 or 10 minutes." He's like, "Oh, have I got time to go for a piss?" They were like, "Yeah, go for it." Then as soon as the guy left to go for a piss, he went on stage and just stood there for ages with the crowd like booing and stuff. And then the guy runs out, still zipping up his fly. Fucking dicks, fuck's sake. Yeah, bands that like Faith No More, maybe back when they hated each other as well. That would be pretty garbage. Who else hated each other?
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. That would be bullshit. Yeah, that'd be bullshit for a lot of reasons. I feel like touring, like, at first I thought touring with Shellac would be good, and I've met them actually backstage, and they're nice people. But touring with them, you'd be like touring with my dad. A lot to talk about, a lot of interesting feedback about the world, but not the people you particularly want to spend 3 weeks on the road with, because I think I don't think they've ever suffered fools gladly. I think they're just a little bit sort of jaded, the whole thing, and they're like, it would probably get a little bit routine for them.
I think it would be a case of,
off.
It's your dad playing cards again, fuck's sake.
Weezer.
We'll run away together. We'll spend some time forever. We'll never feel that anymore.
Yes, I think that'd be monumentally boring. I think that'd be the dullest tour on earth.
I think that would be one of those tours where the headline band, you just never see them or meet them. You said that about your friend's band, and it's like not being able to, all those stories, but not being able to look at Rivers in the eye, and But I had friends as well that played a bunch of shows with Snow Patrol. And despite being invited by Snow Patrol to play the shows, and they weren't allowed into the area of the backstage by the management, that Snow Patrol were in.
I've heard that happen quite a lot, actually. I'm not surprised by that at all.
It's really strange. Okay, there's bands that I can't imagine touring with. I can't imagine what it's like to tour with 30 Seconds to Mars or something like that, because coupled with this sort of celebrity status of Jared Leto as well, it just seems like it'd be you wouldn't see them. They'd be ghosts. It'd be like being in the same building as someone famous and never passing them,
Hermetically sealed, man. That's what it is. Hermetically sealed rock music.
Hermetically?
Hermetically.
I think it's hermetically. And then bands like Biohazard and stuff like that. the kind of touring with a bunch of guys that are that macho, I can't really picture what it's like. The smells and the atmosphere and the conversation. Like, what did Biohazard talk about backstage? Yeah, they talk about politics. Like
they probably don't talk anymore. Just like, I'm going for coffee.
So yeah, that really, I can't quite picture that. Black metal bands, I think, right, so this was a category that really stuck out to me, right? So I remember my flatmate had actually toured with the band Dark Funeral, and he said that was an extremely odd experience, considering the crowd were throwing lit candles at them before during their set. But like, what the fuck are those bands like? I mean, not the pretend ones, but the guys that take it seriously. What are they like off stage? When they're backstage and they're trying to put a bit of cheese and ham on a bit of bread, like how does that work if you're in a black metal band and you're like covered in makeup in the midst of a ceremony and really invested in the Satanism of the occasion?
This bread is too small.
How does that work?
It's like, I have to fold the ham to go. It just breaks my hand.
How did Gwar go for a piss before they go on stage?
Gwar seemed like a lot of fun, man.
Oh no, they seem great. But when you're that invested in the thing, like, how do you just go through the routine bullshit that you do before you go on stage? Like, because anyone that's in a band,
got to do the pre-stage piss.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, almost everybody that's in a band that tours knows they need a jobby before they go on stage, right?
I've never been in that situation myself. It's always a piss for me.
Nah, if you've just driven like 7 hours across Germany, you get to the venue and you've sound checked and it's shaking a few things loose that were nice and still in the van, and you need to get that out of there to enjoy the gig, because you don't want to spend the whole gig with a turtle head.
Yeah, you really don't. Yeah, you really don't.
It's like, how do you, if you're getting into wardrobe, how do you like, oh fuck, we're on stage in 8 minutes, guys, do I have time to go and take a shit? No, because you have to get out of your giant suit.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe they have a porthole.
Do you think they've got like a shit rota when, like, as soon as you arrive at a venue, it's like, who
Nobody's
goes?
that regular.
Like,
nobody that lives on the road and eats bread and out of garages and packs of salt and vinegar McCoys is regular enough unless they're squeezing it out like a puree, like toothpaste.
imagine it happening though, because like it'd be one of those situations where you'd be so bagged up from eating all that like fucking service station bread and shit that you'd have to like take a shit, because you would be able to fucking zip out your costume because your stomach would be so distended you'd fucking have to. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's vile. Maybe they just wear nappies.
Maybe.
I mean, the Rolling Stones almost certainly wear nappies now.
Maybe they just don't have bowels anymore.
I tell you one thing though, it's one great reason to tour in Europe. Service station food is like restaurant food here. No joke, man. When we crossed the border, we went into Switzerland, then we went into Italy, and the food on that journey was honestly unbelievable.
The same in Latvia as well, man. Like,
it's crazy.
A couple of places in Latvia when we were like, where I was staying, my friend's family own a beach house. It was like an hour outside of Riga, and like, yeah, there's just service stations there, man. It's like a supermarket and a restaurant and a service station. Like, what?
Just incredible. Even the sandwiches and stuff are just amazing. Like, they're absolutely brilliant. So yeah, touring in Europe is nothing like touring service station touring in Britain. Like, in travelling up and down the M6, getting stuck at Birmingham.
Oh, it's Greg's again. Fuck.
It's certainly a world away from getting trapped in rows and rows of sunflowers off the west coast of France. You know, it's just...
Yeah. Speaking of tour food, I need to give a shout out to Make That Take Records, because Kenny, his partner, makes the best fucking veggie vegan chili that I've ever had in my entire life, and I'm not even veggie or vegan. It's fucking dynamite.
Are we taking sponsorship now? I didn't realise this. Kenny, you better be subscribing.
Hope he's listening. He's probably not listening. Deacon might be listening. I don't know if he will be.
Yeah, but I mean, on that black metal theme and talking about service stations, how the fuck does Gal go into a service station and ask for like a bag of crisps? How socially maladjusted are these people that are super into their like extreme metal, and their personas are so devolved into these characters where everybody plays along with it live, especially if they're big earners, you know, everyone humours them. What happens if they get to like Swindon and they need to just go into the Esso to get a can of Diet Fanta or something like that? Like how does somebody from Gorgoroth go up to the counter and ask the woman for a packet of Rizla? Like how does that work? The like, because I've been with maladjusted people on tour, speaking from experience, is no fucking fun, and having to stand there and cringe and want the ground to swallow you up at the counter as some social retard tries to buy the most fundamental item from behind the glass panel. It's just horrendous. Like, how does the wee woman behind the thing react?
Well, you know, he's just he's shuffling in with his fucking trucker cap on and his joggies. Do you know what I mean? Like, he looks like a regular
No
guy.
way. Not of their true black metal. That is the point. It's real. They're not in character. We covered this. This is them. That is their life. They believe in Satan. Right? They are, and I guess like the last category, the obvious category is mad bastards.
Mad bastards, yeah.
Being on tour with mad bastards. I mean, obvious ones.
The Bronx. Apparently the Bronx are fucking like
Right.
well in it,
So the
man.
Bronx.
Yeah, don't think I'm alive. Dead footsteps, another outcast screaming alone. God help me, give me what you want, give me what you need, I'll take it all.
The Bronx, Mastodon, and Converge toured together, and
Matt seems like he's a live wire, man.
there's a lot of marching powder happening there. Not,
Yeah.
not for everyone, I might add, but definitely for the drummer from Mastodon, if you've ever listened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they have their moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but they seem like good-natured moments though. So they might be mad bastards, but they're good-natured mad bastards. What about just bastards? Like, what was it? What would it be like being on tour with like Motley Crue?
Have you read The Dirt?
I've not read The Dirt. No, I did watch the absolute travesty of a hagiography that is that film.
Nothing like that. It does paint them in a really bad way. And they
No.
wrote it themselves.
But the thing about The Dirt is, man, they approved it. So
Well, they
think
wrote
about-
it themselves as
but
well.
Think about
Oh,
the
not the
shit
film,
that they
yeah.
weren't allowed to write in The Dirt. Like there are so many like fables from roadies and things of like pushing girls out of cars
Yeah.
at the A&E thing that weren't breathing, because I'm not saying this
I think that's actually in The Dirt.
specifically about Motley Crue, but there's a lot of shit there about the stuff they got up to that wasn't allowed in that, because that's edgy, but they knew they were going to benefit
Yeah.
from it because it gave them a sense of notoriety. But
That's what I was going to say. Like, if you've ever read The Dirt, then you realise it would be definitely horrible people to be on tour with. They would be like, you would just be like,
awful.
what the fuck is your problem? Like,
Awful.
why are you such an asshole?
I mean,
You
if
know?
you've ever read The Informers by Bret Easton Ellis, I think that's kind of largely inspired by that 80s metal scene and like the excesses behind it. Imagine just being around that shit all the time. Although I'd imagine the part of the problem is that everybody just looked the other way, I guess.
And everybody was doing it as well. Like, if you're moving in those circles, and all the bands were doing the same thing.
Not quite as nefarious, but probably more annoying. And maybe in keeping with Dave's choice, the Libertines would be The View.
I fool on myself. So when you look in the mirror, reflecting back at you, someone that you don't know. That's just made your head spin around. So get yourself together and get jumping back.
Huh.
Do you guys know The View? Hopefully you don't, but if you know The View, they're Scotland's most forgettable export. This kind of like denimy, indie, snotty band that did way too many drugs, got way too successful, inspired a lot of really fucking shit little guys to follow them, and just were obnoxious little pricks. And
Still going.
somehow, but they're still going in that sort of semi-tragic way of taking crap gigs from like Music News Scotland and
Yeah.
just shit, like fourth on the bill at the such and such park fet. And yeah, I mean, fuck the view all the way. But touring with a bunch of little douchebags would be such a fucking headache.
Speaking of mad bastards, NoFX.
Got the words, saying things that I got something sticking in my eye. Got something sticking in my eye. Got something sticking in my eye.
Are they bad bastards?
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting, man. But the way that it kind of panned out for them, like, so when NoFX were getting when Fat Mike started Fat Wreck, and when they were kind of growing in profile, like throughout the 80s and most of the 90s as well, actually, like Fat Mike was like completely like didn't drink, didn't do drugs, and then when they'd finally made he's multi-millionaire now because he's got Fat Wreck and NoFX. I mean, they've never been a major label, but like he's obviously made a fair amount of money off of touring like an absolute bastard for the past 30 years. He's now just fucked up all the time. He's just like,
Really?
he's always, I think he's posting on Instagram, like, I think maybe about this time last year, about how he was like, he just went to rehab for like his pill problem. But he's always drunk, man. The whole running joke with him now is like the only place.
But like opioid type pill problem.
No, like fucking ecstasy and all that. Like take
Oh, right,
it all the time. And it's really weird because when he was sober, like Melvin, who's a guitar player, he's always been a total riot. The drummer, Smelly.
Smelly.
Yeah. You can tell they're all kids when they started this band, right? His name's Eric, but
I fucking hate that band even more now.
he was like a huge heroin addict, and like he had to leave the band and go to rehab, and now he's been completely
Smelly
straight
the
for
junkie.
like 20 years
From the
like.
worst CBBS show.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, like being on tour with them back then was probably terrible because they were like 3 of them are nuts, and Fat Mike was just like probably like really difficult to be around because he was so singularly focused
But
on making the
seriously
band
though,
a thing.
What was the guitarist called?
Eric Melvin
So Melvin the guitarist, Fat Mike, and Smelly the junkie.
and El Jefe, the other guitar player.
Oh my goodness.
And now Eric, it's now just it's just Melvin and Fat Mike who are just fucked up all the time now, and it just seems like it'd be even worse. And the running joke they always talk about, they even get a song about it called 60%. It's like they only ever give 60% live because they don't give a fuck anymore because they're just making money now. Which is fair, but I think it's fair enough because they've been doing it for so long. It's like, nah, whatever. He's put his daughters into college and all that shit, do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
and they never compromised once. So I respect that in a lot of ways. Like, never sold out. Even like the biggest contemporary band, I guess you could say, which were close to them, is probably Rancid, and they eventually went to a major label. Never did it. So I respect that, but as a human being, I have no time for them whatsoever.
It's that on one hand, and then the fact they were really crap on the other hand.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I think that's probably another thing. I think it feels as though he's probably like, in some level, pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes because it's like, well, I'm not even that good a songwriter.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, so I harken back, maybe to round it off to one of my experiences. So I toured with a couple of bands that were mad bastards. People I really like, but mad bastards, and people that I just needed a little break from after the tours. There was one of the tours I remember driving overnight between Newcastle and Leeds, I think it was. There was a gig in Newcastle. It was great, but it was a shambles. And after the show, there was a bit of a fracas backstage. The green room was up a flight of about 20 stairs, and I opened the side door of the van and then heard this noise and turned round to see the singer forward rolling down the stairs, getting to the bottom, managing to get up, like walk out the door, putting his fingers down his throat to vomit everywhere, just so he could make enough room in his stomach to then start drinking neat Buckfast again. And I was like, this is going to be a really long tour, because that was the first night. And we drove that night because we had no accommodation, which is another sign of a DIY tour. And we drove to Leeds, and it was torrential rain, and we were passing this lorry, and it was that way where the windscreen wipers are at their maximum, and you're in the van and you're passing this lorry. The spray coming off the lorry is making you extra blind, and I'm not blinking. That's how much I'm like staring. And about 5 minutes prior, I'd had this weird sensation on my shoulder, and it was a guitarist resting his testicles on my shoulder, right? And that was before we started overtaking this truck, right? And we start overtaking this truck, and it's taken a while because the vans that you have in these tours are always garbage. And just as we're passing this van, the singer, who's like in the passenger seat but like 2 seats along, because it's a 3-berth van, is like, Chris. I'm like, not now, man, not now, Chris. Like, just 2 seconds, man, 2 seconds. I need to get by this lorry. Chris. I'm like, what is it? And I kind of leaned towards him, and just as I looked, he hooked me in the face.
Why?
He hooked me in the fucking face, like right on the jaw with a punch, right? And the van immediately like did like the kind of little shimmy thing, and I had to wrestle back control, keep going. The lorry saw the van wobbling, starts hitting his horn in that kind of like solid like way they do. I get by the lorry, immediately pulling in front of it, and then pull into the hard shoulder. The lorry honks again, get out the van, and the other guys by this point have rapidly sobered up. They jumped out the van and had to restrain me from grabbing this guy, and they're like, calm down, sorry man, he's had too much. It was my van. I turned round and he was pissing in the van. And this was the first night. Tours like that have literally taken years off my life. Like, I guarantee it. Like, I'm
man.
already beyond middle aged because of those tours. it's great. You get loads of good patter, but see thinking back in it, it's like it's you laugh, but secretly like you wince quite a lot as well. I remember having a breakdown, like a physical breakdown in Manchester in a car park at about 5 a.m. because I hadn't slept in 3 days because this one tour went really off the rails, and I was the driver, the only driver, and I remember having like this intense panic attack in a car park in Manchester, and then I couldn't drive after it because I was 3 days. I hadn't slept at all, malnourished, the tension was out of control, the band weren't speaking to each other, so I had to take a guy with a provisional license and talk him, like, get the car onto the motorway, get out the driver's seat, put the passenger in the driver's seat who should not have been in that. I was like, just get in the inside lane and just keep moving. It's 5 a.m, hit 60 miles an hour, do not move. And that was I had to get like an hour's sleep to get us home while that guy was doing that. It was horrendous. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to tour. There's a lot of shit people to tour with, a lot of great people, majority of great people to tour with, but that mad bastards on a DIY tour where you don't have like a hotel room where you can get some space, you don't have any ability to segregate yourself from the idiots, that's hard going. If you're the sensible one in the band, that is really hard going.
It's something I learned quite quickly. I haven't toured as much as you, but I've done a couple over the course of my life, and that's something I learned quite quickly, is that sometimes you just need to fuck off yourself and get space, man. And I think a lot of people in bands don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, so the situation you're in, like, there's probably a reason that band's not talking to each other. It's because they're doing this thing which is completely unnatural. They're spending like all of their time together, which is just not a human thing. And maybe certain things could be avoided if people, you know, went and just decompressed for a bit and came back. You know,
the problem is, as a driver, you don't really always get that. As a driver or a tour manager, you can't just fuck off.
I totally get what you mean, but I think from their point
player,
of view,
you know, as a bass player, you can put on some noise cancelling headphones, pull up your hood, and stick your head into a tablet or your phone or whatever in the back seat of the van. That's great, and people do that, and they do need a bit of space. But as a sober guy or the TM, you can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you totally can't. It
takes a lot of restraint. It really does. Yeah, so there you go. Crap people to tour with. 101.
101. Don't do it, kids.
Just give up music now.
Yeah.
Go into something Well, if you're going to do music, do like jazz or folk, because everything's subsidised and the people you'll tour with will be so fucking safe. The worst you'll get is a friction burn from a knitted jumper when someone hugs you too vigorously.
Also, don't do it on your own because it's really depressing. Being solo is fucking grim.
Yeah, we did ask Ben about that in the Blank Mass interview. Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed that split 7-inch. Hopefully Dave will be back next week. Everything will be right as rain. We will be covering Public Enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Mark, anything to add?
Just stay safe out there, kids.
Stay off tour.
Stay off tour.
Stay away from the Libertines. Stay away from the View. And stay away from anybody in a petrol station buying Rizla holding a burning cross. Night night.